Greetings, everybody. I'm Admiral Swart, Commanding Officer of the USS Dauntless, and this is the briefing with the Admiral for Stardate negative 268602.1. I am the Admiral in question, and today we're going to be talking about the duty station induction process, or just induction for short. So, a couple of things I need to cover before we get started. First of all, what are we talking about? What is a duty station? So, you might remember a couple of videos ago, we spoke about the differences between standard positions and duty stations. Standard positions are a position on board the Dauntless where you have a title that exists within the context of a specific department, but there are no specific duties assigned to it, no deliverables, no commitments. You are just a member of that team, and that gives you the option to either be a member relatively passively, to not contribute very much at all, to simply just be a member of that department, or to be flexible in the way that you contribute without being limited to a specific set of deliverables. But duty station, on the other hand, is something that's a little bit more focused. It is there are a number of duty stations on board. Each one is a specific volunteer position that has with it a specific list of deliverables. So we expect the volunteer who holds this specific duty station to commit to doing certain jobs that are relevant to the running of an organization like the USS Dauntless. We need a number of these volunteer positions to be filled and the jobs associated with those positions to be completed in order for us to function on a day-to-day basis. So that's what a duty station is, and that's what a standard position is. And now, when most people join the Dauntless, you start off as a recruit. You go through the orientation process, as we covered in the previous video, and then you transition into becoming a standard position holder. That's the normal path of the normal trajectory that people go through. Once you're in a standard position, once you've sort of settled into a department, you can look around at the duty stations in the department that you're in and get a sense of what kind of work those people are doing in order to keep the Dauntless functioning, in order to keep things going. And maybe there are a couple of empty seats. In fact, at the moment, there are a lot of empty seats around the Dauntless, of jobs that need to be done that are all being either not being done at all, or they're being done by people who are not the volunteers assigned to that position. So those seats are open. That work needs to be done by somebody. And if you have the relevant interest and life experience and capacity to handle that job, maybe you feel like you would be a good candidate for stepping up and filling that duty station. So how do you do that? How do we go through that process? Now, in the old days, it was as simple as saying, oh, here, pick me, I want to be that position, and you would just be given the job. But we are, as Star Trek fans, we are kind of technologically oriented, forward-thinking people, and we have a tendency to want to use technology in the execution of our duties. And to use systems that we've built over time to make things more efficient and make things better, to expand the range of our capabilities. And this has happened in virtually every duty station on board over the years. We've been a chapter for about 2 decades. We're celebrating our 20th anniversary this year. So there's been a fair amount of accrual of complexity over those years in all of those duty station positions. And what we find is that when people who have occupied those positions for some time have to step down for whatever reason, personal reasons, they're moving on to other projects, whatever it might be, in order to find somebody to succeed them in that position, they leave a pretty big gap, because now that any new person stepping into that position has to learn all of those processes and systems that have been built up over the years in order to get up to speed and do that job. And what we found increasingly over the years is that we have been essentially setting people up for failure. So people sign up for a duty station position because they like the kind of work, they think that they can do it, they occupy the seat, and they have no clue what they're doing. So then either the work just doesn't get done, or somebody else has to step in and do the work for them. And that's not a position that anybody wants to be in, especially if you're standing up to be a volunteer in a duty station because you honestly want to do the work. You're not just signing up because you want a fancy title and your email signature. You actually want to contribute, but then somebody else has to do it for you, and then you're just taking credit for the work that somebody else is doing. Nobody wants to be in that situation. That's not fun. That's not why people volunteer. But with the complexity of the various systems on board, that has kind of become a reality of our situation. So in order to mitigate that reality. Over the years, over the last year or so, we have implemented a new protocol we call the induction process. And this is a way through which somebody who has an interest in taking on a volunteer position, a duty station on board, but may not possess the relevant qualifications or skills or tools or anything like that, can slowly be trained up on the job, be coached through the entire process, and by the time they take on that position, by the time they get that title on their email signature, they are already doing the job. So there's no longer a situation where anybody is getting credit for somebody else's work, or work is just getting left behind because people can't keep up with it. You are being coached through every step of the process until you're ready to take it over. Now, this is a lengthy process. It's not going to happen overnight or in a week or something like that. We're looking at a timescale of several months, the better part of a year, to go from zero to being put into the seat of the duty station in question. And in fact, there's even the process continues after you've been appointed to the position for a while. We'll go into the details of what all of that looks like. I do want to point out that every duty station on board is different, so the details are going to be different from everyone. We're not going to look through each and every duty station on board. That will take us all day. What I will look at as we go through is a couple of examples of different duty stations as we go along, so that we can get a sense of what those different duty stations might be, how they're similar and how they're different, so that you can get a sense of what you can expect on your path to occupying a duty station in the future. I also want to be clear that this is a relatively new protocol. There are a lot of moving parts. We're still doing real world testing on this whole thing, so things might change. So check back in a year and see if we've had to update this video with an updated version, because maybe we've turned the whole process upside down and we're approaching it from a different angle or something like that. Hopefully we've settled on something that makes sense and we won't need to change it too much, but expect a lot of variation in this process in the foreseeable future as we go through practical attempts at executing it. All right, so where does it start? So if you want to become a duty station and you are a standard position holder aboard the Dauntless and you're interested in taking on a duty station, where do you go? How do you kick that process off? Well, the obvious place is to go to our website. So let me go there. There we go. That's it. So this is not our public-facing website. This is our internal website, the Dauntless main computer, which if you are a member of the crew, you will have access to. You will go to this page, the duty station application form. And from here, you identify yourself, your email, your name and rank. You'll select from a list of all the available duty stations on board, which one you would like to serve. And you give a resume. So this is a list of any relevant experience or skills or tools that you've worked with that might inform the senior staff's decision on whether or not they want to initiate the induction process with you for this duty station. And then just a paragraph of motivation explaining why it is that you're interested in this position specifically, as opposed to a different position or no position at all, that kind of thing. So this is quite important. You want to make sure that you are selling yourself correctly, because this form, when it's submitted, will go to the senior staff. The senior staff are the command department combined with the department heads of all of the other departments on board. And they will assess your application to see if they agree that you are a good fit for that the duty station that you are interested in pursuing. Now, this is still just an interim, it's an early stage, so obviously nobody's making any solid committing or binding assessments at this stage, but they want to get a sense if you are ready to start that process or not. For example, if you don't know what your rank is, that's probably not an indication that you're ready to pursue the duty station. That has happened in the past. People have filled in this form incorrectly, and that's not ideal. So those applications typically don't go very far. So you want to make sure that you've got all the details here correct. And then once the senior staff have perused your application, you'll then move on to the next step in the process, which is a face-to-face interview. So this could happen in person, or more likely on Discord. And it is a face-to-face interview with an interview panel that are appointed from members in the crew. So typically it would be a member of the command staff, so the commanding officer, usually me, or if I'm not available, the executive officer might step in. That would be one member of the panel. The second member of the panel would typically be someone in the direct line of command above the position that you are interested in serving in. So for example, you would like to serve as a communications operator. The chief communications officer is the officer that you would report to, so that would be the person we would try to get into that interview panel. And then the third officer who would be on the panel would be an officer at large. So this is a member of the crew who is experienced, who's been around for a long time, 5 years or more, has a good sense of the history and culture of the Dauntless, and they would be invited to form part of that panel. Whether or not they themselves are a duty station holder is kind of not the point. The point is more that their job is there to assess whether or not you are a good fit for the leadership of the leadership aspects of the position, as opposed to the technical details. The other two members are there to assess you for the technical details. So they will then run you through an interview face to face. Face to face is quite important because we want to make sure that you are comfortable interfacing with us directly, because again, leadership is part of every duty station on board. We want to make sure that you're situated in that kind of an environment, and we'll ask you questions that relate to both the technicalities of the position in question and also various other sort of softer elements of duty stations in general. Your communication style, your personal experience that might be relevant to the position, what kind of things you like to do in your spare time, all those kinds of things might be relevant to your pursuit of a given duty station. Once that panel has conducted the interview, they will then deliberate and produce a report back to the senior staff. They will make recommendations about whether or not you should be put forward for the duty station position. And then that report, again, will be deliberated once again by the senior staff. So the senior staff will then take a look at that report and decide if they're going to go ahead. Assuming everything goes well and you are nominated for the position by the senior staff, we'll move on to the next phase, which is the prerequisites coaching. So here, let's start looking at some practical examples. Before we move on to that, I'd like to just say hello to a couple of people who've joined us here in the chat. We've got, let's see, we've got Colonel Yubert, we've got Chief Newton, we've got Chief Kotza, and we've got Ensign Kemmerly. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We've got a quick question from Chief Kotza. This process is more rigorous and fair than most companies I've dealt with. Well, I certainly hope that that's true. Being a volunteer organization, we want to make sure that people are not overcommitting themselves because they're not getting any kind of financial compensation for the work that they're doing. We want to make sure that people are committed to doing the work for its own sake and for the soft rewards of doing it. So we have to be quite careful about making sure people are not being set up for failure in these situations. And that's something we haven't really done very well through most of our history, and we hope that we're turning that around by implementing this kind of a process. Captain van Groenen, did I say hello to you? I see you there in the chat as well. All right, so let's move on to a practical example of the prerequisites coaching. So let's take a look at a duty station from the command department. Let's say you would like to apply to be the recruiting officer. So here on the description of the recruiting officer position is a list of duties. These are all the things that this person has to do. And then underneath that, we have qualifications. So in order to be considered, the applicant must already be an active participant in a bare minimum of 50% of all USS Dauntless activities measured over a 3-month time frame. This must include online and in-person activities, as well as monthly challenges. We'll go through this piece by piece in a moment. The applicant must also be an active user of Discord, Google Workspace, Trello, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And then we have some itemized requirements as well. So in order to qualify for application to position, the member must be grade 03, so that's lieutenant, marine captain or higher, must have completed the officers training school and the SFDPP exams at Starfleet Academy, must be a current active member of Starfleet in good standing, must possess a correct and accurate SDU, standard duty uniform, needs to have completed the new recruit orientation course, which is part of the onboarding process for the Dauntless, and needs to have completed the onboarding protocol certification, which is another internal Dauntless certification that we provide to our crew. And then within 6 months of appointment to the position, needs to have completed the PD 100 certification through the Starfleet Marine Corps Academy. So, in the prerequisites coaching part of the process, we will be assisting the applicant to check every item off of this list. So, if you are interested in taking on this position, you don't need to already have all of these completed. Ideally, you'd have as many of them as possible, but it's not realistic for us to expect everybody to have, or anybody to have all of these items. There's a lot of disparate things on this list, and most people, even within a group as forward-thinking and technologically oriented as a chapter of Starfleet, not everybody's going to have all the relevant tools and experience listed here. Simply because we're just not that large a group of people. So expecting any one person to have all of these skills is not reasonable or a practical expectation. So we will assist you in checking off all of these items. These ones are relatively straightforward. Do you have the right rank? It doesn't really take that much time or that much effort to earn the rank of lieutenant. You can, if you really apply yourself, you can achieve that rank within the first fortnight of your membership on the Dauntless. Officers Training School is really, really quick and easy to do at Starfleet Academy. It's an essential exam, but it can be knocked out in half an hour. It's a multiple choice open book exam that can be done online. It's quick and easy if you are a Starfleet member in good standing. The SFDPP exam is a little bit more complicated, but not that much more. It's a longer exam, but it's also multiple choice open book. You can complete it. In fact, it's 2 exams for the first year, and then there's an annual renewal exam that has to be completed for any updates in the relevant policies. The new recruit orientation course is a 5-day course you would have completed anyway as part of your onboarding. In order to reach the rank of lieutenant, you need to have completed that anyway. The onboarding protocol is a little bit more complicated, but that's also something that can be done with you via Discord as part of your process. Ensign Kimberly says the SFDPP is so long. Yes, it is. It's a very long exam. I think it's something like 60 questions, multiple choice, which is longer than most academy exams. And it's pretty dry stuff, but it's important if you want to hold any position of authority within Starfleet International in general, and also many positions of authority within the Dauntless itself. So the one on this list that might take you the longest amount of time is accumulating your correct and accurate standard duty uniform. If you don't already have one of those squared away, this might take you some time. It's a reality of living here in deepest, darkest Africa that obtaining a uniform like that can be costly and time consuming. So we typically have to order them online. The quartermaster on board can assist you with pointing you to websites where you can obtain a suitable uniform at a reasonable price, but it can still be expensive. We're talking 2,000 to 3,000 rand to purchase and import a brand new uniform. Apologies, somebody was just at my gate, but they've wandered off. 2,000 to 3,000 rand to import a uniform and then to have it fitted on arrival. So it costs some money and it takes some time. Will take anywhere up to a couple of months from date of ordering to arrival, depending on what shipping options you select. So this one might take you some time if you haven't already done it. So this item alone forces us to be patient with this process. It's not a quick thing. It's going to take some time. The other thing that's going to take some time is this activity tracking. So in order to be considered, an applicant must already be an active participant in a bare minimum of 50% of all Dauntless activities measured over a 3-month time frame. Quick comment from Captain von Krenen. One of the ways to get it sorted is finding a local cosplayer and commission them to make or tailor one for you as well as an alternative. That's true. That can be quicker. It's typically not cheaper, but it is another option that's available. There are multiple routes to getting yourself a certifiable SDU, and the quartermaster specifically and the rest of the crew in general can offer you some hints and tips on how to get that done. But regardless, it's going to cost some money and it's going to take some time. But here with the activity tracking, this is relevant, and this is something that's going to change from one duty station to another. So let's look at a different one. Communications, no. Engineering, no. Medical. This is a good example. Here we go. We want to look at the Deputy Chief Medical Officer, and we look at the activity tracking here. The applicant must already be an active participant in a bare minimum of 50% of all Dauntless medical activities measured over a 3-month time frame. So this is going to be different from one duty station to another, depending on where the position is on the ship. the medical department is one of the departments that has a fair amount of their own in-person activities. So that's park run events are fall under medical. Our priority one blood donation missions that we have every 2 months, those fall under medical. So medical has its own missions, whereas command, which is where the recruiting officer doesn't have a lot of its own missions. So command, the expectation there is different. You need to be participating in all Dauntless activities, and that measured over a 3-month time frame. So whoever is running you through your induction process, which will usually be me, the commanding officer, we will set up a tracking tool that we can use to check every single relevant event or activity that's happened on the Dauntless during the last 3 months, and we can measure whether or not you attended or attended or participated in that activity. And we can just got a little red light or a green light. If it's above the threshold, it's got a green light. If it's below the threshold, it's got a red light. And we're going to keep on measuring that throughout the induction process. We're going to be updating that monthly, making sure that we're still hitting that target, just to make sure that you remain committed to the activities that exist within the context of the duty station that you wanted to take over. Because we expect our duty station holders to lead by example by being actively involved in the department that they're serving in. So in departments where there's not a lot of physical activity like engineering or communications, the scope of those would be expanded to be ship-wide activities. But in places where there are a lot of department-specific activities like medical or science, we'd expect you to be involved particularly in the activities represented or operated by your own department. So yes, we want you to display your leadership by example through being active in your department or within your sphere of influence that's relevant to the duty station that you're applying for. So this must include online and in-person activities. In fact, those two categories of activities are measured separately. A lot of activities are online. So for example, our watch parties happen online, but we also have in-person activities, and that is away missions. We had an episode about that a while ago. In-person activities are away missions like our blood donation missions, park run, movie nights, games days, that kind of thing. If there are no relevant in-person activities or online activities within your specific sphere of influence, let's say your department is one of those that is expected to have activities and there haven't been any in the last little while, you are expected then to organize those activities. To set up an event, you are invited to arrange an away mission yourself, and in doing so, there you are creating the circumstances in which you can be a leader within your team. So by setting up movie nights or setting up games days, you can then create the activities that you are then participating in and being measured against for this induction process. And that's the kind of leadership that we're actually looking for in our volunteers, is being prepared to step up and make things happen, not just participating in things that are happening around you. And then the next item is as well as monthly challenges. So these are the challenges we spoke about last time: the fitness challenge, the linguistics challenge, the combat training challenge. We've got a new one that's just launched this month, the reading challenge. These challenges are relevant again within specific scopes of influence within the Dauntless, and we're going to be measuring your activity in or engagement in those challenges to see that you are leading by example within your sphere. You don't necessarily have to be winning those challenges, you just need to be participating in them. That's what we're measuring for this activity tracker. So every month we're updating that list, making sure that you have been hitting those thresholds for minimum of 50% on all three criteria, as well as overall, to make sure that you are representing your department appropriately and displaying the relevant leadership to the other members of your team. And then we have the applicant must also be an active user of Discord, Google Workspace, Trello, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So these are the tools that are relevant to this specific duty station, which here is recruiting officer. These are the main tools that we use for recruiting or for tracking our recruiting efforts. But not everybody has necessarily used all of these things. So if you haven't used any of these things, that's fine. We'll get to this in the next phase. So this is not a prerequisite. This is a nice to have. Discord, of course, is essential because that is our central place of operations. These others are ideal, they're preferred, but we'll get to that in the next step. So once we've met all of those prerequisites, we've got green lights all the way down the board. You've met your bare minimum of 50% of activity measured over a 3-month time frame. You've got all your qualifications, and you've obtained your standard duty uniform that has been certified by the ship's quartermaster as being certified, accurate, and correct. We then move on to the on-the-job training. So at this point, we will start to introduce to you the various tools that are relevant to the job that you've signed up for. Let's find one of these tools pages. I left them open here. There we go. So here's command resources. So for the recruiting officer, as a member of the command team, you're going to have access to a number of tools that the command team use to do their job. I think I've hidden all private data. It's a little bit late now if I haven't, but it looks like I have. Okay, cool. This should be safe. Again, this is one of our internal website pages, and these are embedded tools that are relevant to the command department. So we will go through these tools one by one, showing you how it works, setting up an account for you so that you can use it on your own, giving you access to the private workspaces that are relevant to doing your job, like, for example, the crew manifest. Most members of the crew cannot actually see the crew manifest. They see a sanitized version of it called the crew list, which only has names, titles, ranks, and away team qualifications, whereas the full crew manifest has all of the information that we have on every member of the crew. We also have a personnel board on Trello, which allows us to consolidate the various other information and various links about each member of the crew into a single board, and provides us with a visual interface to interact with it. We also have the crew evaluations board on Trello, which is a different board that uses a lot of the same information that allows us to manage crew evaluations on a monthly basis. We haven't covered crew evaluations yet in one of these videos, but we will be soon, I think. We also have the crew evaluations report, which is a spreadsheet that we fill out every month, where we add all the relevant activity details for each member of the crew, and produce a series of reports on both individual crew members, departments reporting, away team activity, that kind of thing. All of that stuff happens in the crew evaluations report, and that's also beg your pardon. That's also where we will be mining the data for your activity report when we're measuring your activity levels for the prerequisites part of the training. So as an applicant during this process, one by one, you'll be granted access to every single one of these tools, and you'll be talked through by a relevant skilled person, probably me, or whoever the senior officer is that you'll be reporting to once you have the job, on how to use the tool for doing so. You'll be given access to the specific items that you need, and one by one shown where to put the stuff that you need. If there are any additional certifications that you require, like the onboarding protocol, for example, that stuff will happen here, and we'll be talking you through all of those qualifications as we go along. Once you feel like you have a level of comfort with these tools, we then move on to the next part of the process. Now, this step here, the on-the-job training, could take some time. Again, months potentially. But once you feel confident and comfortable with all of these tools, we'll then move on to the next step, which is the practical assessment. So the officers who are administering the induction process will come up with a series of tests that you can go through in order to establish that you really do have a grasp of all the tasks required of you in that duty station position. So let's look at a different example this time. Communications department. The chief communications officer has a set of duties that includes departmental supervision. So that's maintaining open lines of communication with members of the department. So the induction officers will come up with an assessment that measures your ability to do that. It might be using live data, so interacting with real people, or it might be a simulation. With something like departmental supervision, it'll probably be live data. So we'll ask you to reach out to every member of the department, have a conversation with them, check in on them, see how they're doing with their Dauntless membership, and that will confirm your ability to grasp the task there. Next, we have reporting, which is submitting the departmental monthly status report, DMSR, to the executive officer on or before the 3rd of each calendar month. For that, we might ask you to do a live DMSR. So you might be asked to submit the DMSR for your department for the month, and we'll see how well that goes. Or perhaps if it's not convenient to do the live one, we might ask you to submit a dummy version of the DMSR for assessment so that we can see how well you've done. Logging, which is writing a regular column for the Crow's Nest. The Crow's Nest isn't a newsletter anymore. It's now a video, but we might ask you to simulate something along those lines. We'd have to think about the protocol for that one. Editorial control. So in communications is responsible for managing the message between the Dauntless and the outside world. And this includes managing the publications that the Dauntless puts out. The Crow's Nest is no longer available to readers outside of the Dauntless, although that still matters. It's less of an issue these days. Editing and publishing posts through the Dauntless social media feeds. So that's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, etc. We will probably run you through a simulation where you're actually submitting real posts to those social media feeds. They'll be submitted to editorial control before you post them, but we'd ask you to do actual content, to produce actual content and post them to the actual feeds using the various tools that we use to do that. And then editing content on the USS Dauntless website. What we might do as an assessment here is we might find some outdated information on one or more of the Dauntless websites and then task you with tracking it down, updating it, correcting it, and publishing the updates. Then there's delegation, performing any and all duties of the Deputy Chief Communications Officer is unable to perform. That's largely redundant at this stage. Then Officer of the Watch means providing moderation and administration support to internal and external Dauntless communications channels, monitoring those channels during convenient hours and taking swift action should any inappropriate content be posted or other issues arise. So this is a task that is left to most senior officers on board, where if anybody makes an inappropriate comment or accidentally posts the wrong image in an open channel on Discord or on a comment thread on Facebook, our senior staff are expected to react to that swiftly, to step in and remove that content and maybe have a word with the person who submitted it. It's not necessary very often. We also have auto moderation tools on Discord and on Facebook, so a lot of that stuff is automated anyway, but officers of the watch are expected to be on standby to do that kind of thing. So what we might do again is set up a simulated situation where somebody, maybe a bot account, posts something inappropriate and you as an officer of the watch will have to step in and do something about that. Then there's fleet operations, which is collaborating and coordinating with communications, moderation and marketing communities within Region 8 and Starfleet International. It's difficult to simulate this one because this involves opening and maintaining actual relationships with real people. So what we might do there is we'll ask you to establish those relationships and monitor that coordination until we're satisfied that you have a good grasp of how that stuff goes. So this is what the assessment, the live assessment, would look like for the Chief Communications Officer, for example. And it's not unlikely that we might need you to repeat the assessment multiple times until we feel that you are sufficiently competent in that job. Once every one of those assessments has been signed off and we agree that the assessment committee agree that you are qualified and capable of performing the job, that is when you are appointed to the position of the duty station that you originally requested. So this might be 3 to 6 months after you originally submitted that application form, but by now you are ready to take that seat. Everybody agrees that you have the necessary skills and experience to do the job, and then you are ready to go. And you'll be assigned that position. You'll be given the recognition that goes with it, which comes with the title of the duty station. Perhaps there's even a promotion. Some positions have promotions that come with them, and all of that stuff happens at this point. But this is not yet the end of the induction process. What will happen from here on out is what we call the post sign-off hand-holding. So for a period of time after you've been assigned to the position, the induction officers will continue to monitor your progress and will continue to be available for you as a resource if you have any questions or if you're struggling to do the job that you've been assigned to do. And if there are any major issues, they can step in and assist you with it. But these training wheels will gradually fall off on their own. So as the induction officers become increasingly confident that you are capable and you're doing the job without the need for assistance, then they will assist you less and less, until eventually you're just doing the job on your own, and the whole induction process will eventually just be over. There's no formal cutoff date to when that happens, but hopefully the induction officers will let you know that they're no longer keeping an eye on you and they're trusting you to do the job when they feel that you're ready to do so. So that is the officer's induction process. So it's a long process, but it is a valuable one in that it equips you with all of the necessary tools and skills to do the job that you've requested to do in the first place. Uh, and it's not unlikely that during the course of the induction process, you might come to feel differently about the duty station that you've requested. Let's take this off. I don't think we need that anymore. We can go back to this. Okay. So let's say, for example, that you've applied to a position deputy chief science officer, for example, and it comes to 3 or 4 months into the process and you're struggling with the meeting the prerequisites and you really no longer feel like you're properly motivated to obtain that position, you are welcome to, at that point, simply drop out of the process. Just let us know that you're not interested in pursuing it anymore, and we will just cancel it from that point on. You're not obliged to explain it to everybody. You can just let us know that you're done with it and you don't want to pursue it. And because at that point it hasn't yet been made public that you are in the process, you can do so saving face. If you feel like it's not for you, we'd rather not trap you into a position where people are expecting things of you that you are not willing to provide. So we would rather people be willing and cheerful about doing the work. And if you are not happy with the duty station that you've applied for, you can even potentially midstream switch to a different duty station or just give up on the process entirely. Likewise, if we have an applicant that's going through the process and at any point we feel like progress isn't being made, if it's been months since we've checked off any of those green lights during the prerequisite part of the process, for example, and we simply haven't taken any steps forward, there doesn't seem to be any forward motion on it, or in fact it's even going backwards, we as the induction officers might decide to simply cancel the induction process. And then at some point in the future, if you feel like you have the capacity to pursue it again, we can start again from the beginning and see what happens. No shame on you. There's no record that it ever really happened, other than the application form that's sitting in somebody's email inbox. All of it will simply go away because you haven't yet committed to doing the job yet. Nobody's going to be holding anything against you. You simply have the opportunity to try again when you feel like you're ready. And that's what the induction process looks like. I don't see any questions in the chat, so hopefully that means that I've addressed all of the issues that needed addressing. If you have any questions after the fact, you are welcome to drop those in the comment section either on YouTube or on Facebook, because those are the primary places where these videos are posted. If you have any messages for me, you'd like to have them addressed privately, you're welcome to send them to me again, Facebook, Messenger, Instagram, Discord, email, wherever you like, wherever you can reach me, you are welcome to drop those questions or comments. And that is, I believe, all for today. Chief Kotza asked me if the record button was clicked. Yes, it was. That's showing blue on my board, so the recording should be good on my side. All right, so thank you.